and I wanted to talk a little bit about being the queen of tween. What makes you the queen of tween? How?
Well, yeah, so I use that as sort of a branding. I don't, it's not necessarily my title, but if I think of, what is in the scope of what I'm going to post on my Facebook page, well, I'm like, I just went to see Violent Night, and I did post that, even though that's not necessarily a tween movie. It's still movie, it's still holiday. I have a Christmas book. I think it still falls within my brand to post that. But I wouldn't, go so far outside my brand to post something else. So that's more of a branding thing than it is a title.
Gotcha. No, I wasn't. I wasn't asking for your bona fides. When was the coronation? I am curious. Whether you're the queen or just really, really high up in the rankings, wherever you stand with the tweens, what is it that makes a good tween voice? How do you stay in touch with making sure that you're, despite not being a tween yourself, you're able to connect with that audience and to offer up a fair representation?
I think the voice, definitely at the time of Just Add Magic, the voice came naturally to me. And maybe it's because I was surrounded by tweens, or maybe it's because I'm still tweeny somewhere in here. I have tried to stretch older into YA, and I often get the feedback. So you've made your character 18, but you still sound like you're 13. Like my voice that naturally comes out on the page sounds like a tween voice. When I do my school visits, it does help me get in tune with tweens today, because naturally my tween voice and tween brain is either when I was a tween or when my kids were tween, and now my kids are grown up. So it does take a little bit of effort to get back into the fold. And one of the ways I do that is by doing school visits, to understand what the tone is, and the buzzwords and the attitudes about certain things with tweens right now.
Okay, so you go and you do the school visit. I assume there's a presentation. Everybody buys a book because they're good attendees, and you sign a bunch of books. When are you able to get that homework in to interact? What kinds of ways are you interacting to get that information that you need?
Yeah, ahead of a school visit, I almost always have, either by request or the school facilitate, a couple of tweens to kind of help me. They help me bring things in from my car and help me set up the stage and the podium, and that's when I can kind of probe. What's your name? What kind of things you're interested in? Oh, do you play soccer? Do you do? Is it a co-ed team? Things that I kind of want to know. How does it work right now? So that gives me kind of an intimate group of, I don't know, let's say 4 or 5 or 6 kids to chat with socially. I give the presentation. I can tell sometimes from the questions that they ask, what's hot on their mind. Illustrations are one that always comes up. So I think that tells me, that they're very interested in art. And the way that they interact with each other, interact with their teachers. I'm watching, I'm an observer even though I'm presenting, I'm an observer that whole time. And then I get some great one-on-one intel when I'm signing their books. What's your name? How do you spell it? Oh, that's a pretty name. And just starts a little bit of one-on-one dialogue that I try to glean some intel. If I'm working on a project and I have specific questions, I can often toss those out on Facebook or Twitter and say, I have a 13-year-old that is going to play a board game. Do 13-year-olds play board games anymore? Question mark. If so, what board game is it? Question mark. Do they even know what Monopoly is? Question mark. And I normally can get a lot of great feedback that way. And other tween authors too that I'm friendly with. We can talk and either discuss how are we handling a certain topic or issue, or what's the buzz in your world.
Well, I assume at some events, maybe not necessarily every school visit, but some events they're coming to see you. They're Cindy Callaghan fans, so I'm assuming you're able to ask them, what did you like about this book? What do you think was maybe could have been a little bit better? Are you able to get that kind of direct feedback?
Not necessarily about any one book, because I often go in with the whole suite and I talk to them more about about writing and the writing process. Sometimes they will ask me specific questions about some of a storyline or a plot line. Um, but I don't usually get direct feedback. And it's funny, the range of fandom is sometimes I go and the kids will walk in and they're like, who are you? Do we have an assembly today? What are you the magician? Are you the like, so sometimes there's that. And then I did one last week with a much smaller group. So sometimes I'm giving very, very big groups of students presentations, and sometimes it's smaller groups, and they both have their pros and cons. But the smaller groups allow for a little bit more conversation. And that group walked in and a couple of the girls were holding my books and they're staring at me and they're like, oh, I love this book. And that's great. That feels really good. When I'm doing bookstores too, I can usually tell when someone walks in the door whether or not I'll call them a Just Add Magic fan, which is, I use that as a broad term for a tween that's right in my zone. But I can just tell by looking at them, and as soon as they see me, and I'll have a Just Add Magic book and some other books, and usually they're a little shy, and I can just tell they're a fan as soon as I see them.
So when you're meeting somebody who you know is a fan, and you want it to go well because they're going to remember this long after you've moved on to the next thing, what are some things you'll do to create a memorable experience and to make sure that they feel appreciated for having come out and shown their love for your series?
Uh, I guess I do a lot of different things. I obviously always sign their book and whatever else they would like signed, and I personalize it, and I try to talk to them for a minute or two before I sign it, because I might write something also in the book like good luck on your soccer game or whatever it might be, so that they'll have that thereafter. I'll ask them if they're Just Add Magic fans. I'll ask them which one of the girls is their favorite, which one do they resonate with the most, or what do they like about them. For the Lost In books, which one was your favorite? Oh, why do you like Rome? What's your favorite pizza? Oh, you know what? I really like pepperoni, but I know why you like that. And I just try to get them into a dialogue on one aspect of one of the books. They might offer that they're also a writer, and so we might talk about, oh, what kind of a project are you working on? Do you share your work with your friends? Do you get feedback from your teacher? But I think just trying to talk to them like they're people, they're friends, and getting to know them a little bit, hopefully leaves them with a feeling that which I am, genuinely interested in them and their reading, and how appreciative I am that they like me.